Wow, here we are on Tuesday night. Let me turn around and look for a second. The last Tuesday of September, yeah. Life is about more than living live. Tonight's guest. I met her when I was out working one of my side gigs, and I'm gonna let her speak for herself when I bring her back. However, because of the common interest, tonight's episode is entitled Christianity's Evolutions, the impact of today's Black church upon our quickly changing social norms. Make sure I put that word in there. Our quickly changing social norms. Um, and so she should be ready to come on. See her smiling face. Let's bring on Dr. Sheila A. I'm letting her pronounce her last name and give you her bio.
Yes.
Welcome to the show. I did not attempt to pronounce your last name.
Listen, I
Um,
got your number. It's Otieno, but you say it as though you're saying the letters O-T-N and O really fast in a string. So Otieno.
Otieno.
There we go. Perfect.
Now, with everyone that has catched the show before, first of all, it's not only streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, and I incorporated LinkedIn tonight, uh, the video audio version of the show,
Mhm.
uh, on all sorts of places, Spotify, Apple, you name it, within a couple of hours. But the biggest thing about this show is, for me, is the quote that I chose. It came from one of the books that I actually listened to and read.
Mhm.
The name of the book, and I suggest you get it if you're slightly. I was ignorant of some of the things in my black church. We're gonna dive into the black church to a certain degree. Uh, this from the book entitled "The Black Church. This is Our Story. This is Our Song." Henry Louis Gates Jr. He said in that book, enslaved people were conjuring out of nothing that mankind has been stripped away from them for 400 years. They used the spirituals as a catalyst.
Mm,
So much was stripped away from us that we use the spirituals as a catalyst.
mm,
So now I'm letting her, Dr. Otieno, give her own bio, say what she wants to say. We will
mhm.
be touching on a few bullet points tonight, the connection between the African and African American religions, historical evolutions of Christianity, our Christianity in general,
Yeah.
but even more importantly for me, the impact, the influence of the Black church, past and present.
Mm.
Your time, my dear sister.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harold. This has been a long journey. I think maybe we planned this maybe a month and a half ago. And
About a month and a half ago, yeah.
yeah, a month and a half ago, and I kind of rescheduled on you, but this is okay. Sometimes things have to happen at their appointed time, and so
Mhm.
this is what happens. So life be lifing, but we keep going. So I am Dr. Sheila Otieno. People call me Dr. O because it makes it easier. Yes, that name is not an American name. And so I guess some of you are wondering, where is she from? I'm originally from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm sure you can hear a little bit of an accent behind there. Lots of Caribbean people like to claim me. Where my Caribbean people at? Lots of Nigerians like to claim me, but I am actually from East Africa, a country called Kenya. If you saw all the wonderful ladies that were running in the World Olympics Championship the past 2 weeks ago, maybe you know where I'm from. That's where I'm from. I can't run to save my life, but many of the people from my country run. And I am a professor of religious studies. I'm a scholar of religious studies. I call myself a comparative ethicist. That's because I look at how ethics works in different contexts and different countries and different spaces, but most especially in Africa and in the African diaspora. So in the African diaspora, I think about things related to what I call Africana religions. And Africana religions are indigenous thought systems and social thought systems native to the Black person or to the Black man or woman. And so that's what I do. I teach undergraduates. And sometimes they get on my nerves, but most times we're very good friends. So that's what I do. That's my bio. And that's a little bit of who I am. So where do you want me to start, Alfred? Do you want me to
Wherever you want to
the
start.
quote?
Because you have a quote if you want to
Actually,
dive into the quote.
yeah, I love me some Skip Gates Jr. Skip Gates. This has also that same book has also become a documentary on PBS. So if anyone is not really
What?
a reader, yes,
I did not know that.
Reader, The Black Church. This is our story. This is our song. Is a
I might watch that tonight.
documentary. It's a PBS documentary. And I think in the documentary, you get some snippets that are not really in the book. And he talks to people all around the country, including families who have generations and generations been in the Black church. And seeing that history come alive, I think, makes a big difference. Yeah. Anyway, back to the quote. The quote is such a powerful quote. I think we are conjuring out of nothing. We are conjuring. I love that he used the word conjuring, because conjuring automatically grounds this in an indigenous religious process. Okay.
I'm listening.
Indigenous religious process. I'm coming. It's an indigenous religious process. And so when we say we're conjuring out of nothing, when you're building something out of air, that's called you're appearing something out of nothing, right? So basically he's saying we were conjuring a people, right? He says manhood, but I would say personhood, right? We were conjuring a personhood out of nothing that has still, even though we did that, been stripped away from us for 400 years.
Yeah. That's what stood out to me when I did the research. I went looking for the perfect quote. That just got me, because I was in my 40s and I came from a place where my blackness should have been ingrained in me. And I knew the stories, and I remember going to the segregated bathrooms as a kid, and I'm only 63 years old.
Yeah.
And yet I was in my 40s when it hit me that I didn't even really know my own blackness. And I knew I still struggle with the Black church and its worship precepts.
Yeah.
And so some people call me a church runner, a church floater, a bunch of other names. I really don't care, because this journey is
diverse, church diverse. That's what you are.
All church divergent. Could be,
not church divergent, church diverse. Right.
Diverse.
Welcoming most of the churches, right?
Most of the churches, because it goes back to what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And for me, in my best of times, and playing off another poet's words, my worst of times, I'm still conjuring up something inside of me.
That's it.
Out of that, in that worship space.
Yeah.
And some days it's great, and some days I'm like, that's a bunch of BS up there, because I read the books.
I mean, got a lot of time to talk about that, but I feel like that quote is saying something that's very powerful. I mean, he throws another whammy at us when he says they use the spirituals as a catalyst, but that first section really is talking about the formation of Blackness in this nation, right? The formation of Black culture, Black people, Black identity, right? What we now call Afro-American identity is a constructed identity.
Right.
It's a constructed identity. And I'm from Africa, so, I will tell you, actually, originally, this is not as far, as far off as we would think. I mean, Alfred, you just mentioned, like, you're 63, but you remember as a child going through Jim Crow. Like, it is not that far off in, people be like, oh, that's a long time ago. It's happened so long time ago, people should get over it. But I'm like, no, actually, there's people who lived through some of the remnants of 400 years plus of slavery and segregation in this country. So we cannot discount that, and we cannot push that away as though we're now in a new dispensation. I don't think that that's the case. So him saying they used spirituals as a catalyst, I think, is the core of our conversation today.
Yeah.
It's like, how can something that was so hard on us as Black people, and this is all over the world, this is not necessarily only African Americans. I mean, colonialism was happening in the continent itself, right?
Yeah.
So not Africans and African Americans, all Black descended, African descent, people of African descent, which is what we like to say, right? People who recognize their skin as being this color. Right? And we'll go with the 1 drop rule. Okay. If you have 1 drop of this melanin, right, then you count as being Black or Afro.
But see, that's another thing too. And I think that's where I I'm open to like the
Yeah.
different. I'm trying to say
Lots of
interracial
conversation.
marriages and all the things, but I actually had a friend of mine
Mm-hmm.
in the early '80s
Mm-hmm.
who's lived in a camp, and she was born here in the South
Yeah.
during that period in
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina where that one drop applied to her.
Right.
Eh, So I'm like, but when you look at her children, because that one drop applied to her, she married someone that looked like this. She
Yeah.
wasn't allowed to marry anyone else.
Yeah.
So her children appear to be what's in my time period called mixed. Now they use the word interracial,
Yeah.
but her children also were just on the outer edges of that one drop rule.
Yeah. And I
Because
think that the legacy of racialism and racialization in this country is insidious in that way, right?
hmm
Because it's the one drop rule emerged into the three-fifths rule, emerged into
hmm
multiple various things that still run us today, redlining
hmm
or name it, whatever the
hmm
systemic injustice is, it comes from that kind of mindset. So that mindset began from a long time ago. And
hmm
unfortunately, even though interracial marriages have happened and we have long since created new race categories, we've long since kind of accommodated new
I like what
ways.
you just said. I like what you just said,
What did I say?
and that gets back to the point, the race categories.
Yes.
When basically every this thing, the those who I said it before, and I'm not saying it again, who
Yeah.
stole this land
Hmm.
created they created race categories as
Yeah.
they needed them to be to make themselves more powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, whenever you put anything on the top, Alfred, it means that somebody has to be at the bottom. Okay.
hmm
So, social constructs, which is
hmm
exactly what race is, right? Race is a social construct that hierarchized or placed people in a hierarchy. And at the top of the hierarchy was white and male.
hmm
Every other thing comes after.
hmm
Now, I would argue that the bottom of that rung equals black and female,
hmm Yeah.
but we can talk more about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
I would then say that whatever categories fall in between still have to be, at some degree or to some degree, somewhat less than what the top category is,
hmm
including white women.
hmm Yeah.
Okay, including white women and white children. And now we would even talk about sexualities as well, falling under that
Yeah.
rubric, right?
hmm
So when you create a caste system, when you create a hierarchy, there's no other way we will order people into the categories that exist.
hmm
Okay. So when that is the way people wanted to govern in this country, they thought about it long and hard,
hmm
and that's what they did. So when we talk about the one drop rule, the one drop rule is just as insidious as stating that nobody else has more power than the white man in this country,
hmm hmm
and nobody else is entitled to that much power.
hmm
And while we think that maybe this is 400, close to 500 years later, nobody is still thinking like that. I would just ask you to step outside and look at who are the top 10 wealthiest people in America.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when we talk about the 1%, that's just code for who is the person that's running the show, right? When we
Exactly.
talk about political power, right?
hmm
What's the majority of the race and the gender that is in Congress and in Senate,
hmm
right? And so we have to, like, also at the same time not necessarily check ourselves, but also just be realistic about what we see, right? Believe
hmm
your eyes. Hmm?
hmm
Believe your eyes and believe
And
what you see
now
around.
I'm going to throw a curve into this that really frustrates a lot of people that I
It
talk to.
does. It does.
And the curve is this, and it comes back to our black church.
That's it.
We know where we went from here in America and other places where was colonization taking place,
Absolutely.
where they chose certain individuals to lead over the black people with their segregated Bibles.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's being done only in a different format. Those who are willing to peel back the layers
Yeah.
of leadership, quite often, for me, the bullet word has been Texas.
Okay.
If a black church has leaders in Texas, then
Mm.
it's white men controlling that black church.
Yeah.
Because Texas has the majority of the Joel Osteen types and power brokers, CBN network. You're
Yeah.
going to bring it to modern time parallels.
Yeah.
And though it may present to you us, we're in our blackness and all the hollering and things traditionally associated with us,
Mm.
when you peel back the layers,
Yeah.
there there's not much of a difference than what the
Yeah.
slave masters did.
Yeah.
However, some have also challenged me, well, if you really want to get into a black church, you need to go AME or something like that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with all of that is I still am a hopeful, optimistic
Mm.
that there are still black churches that are living out what this man said in this quote,
Yeah.
who for the larger percent part have have larger black leadership when you
Mm.
peel back the layers. So they
Yeah.
may have modernized the music and the programming. I'm throwing that all into the mix of things is that all you're saying is so great and I
Yeah.
appreciate it so much. I'm sure my listeners are going to appreciate it.
I hear it.
But at the core of it is not we're able to.
Yeah.
I got to quote myself. Hold on,
Yeah.
let me go back to my notes. Let me go to
Okay.
my notes.
Well,
They use the spiritual as a catalyst.
yes.
Only difference now, when I say mention peeling back the layers, is
Yeah.
in modernizing things for me, is
Mm.
when the spiritual has been modernized and they're being used as the catalyst to build us, and the leadership has truly have connected to that blackness and not just using it to control us to a certain point. Because
Yeah.
I've seen it when certain leaders get to a certain point and all of a sudden they pull back because
Hmm.
they went as far as they're allowed to go
Hmm.
versus others who are able to go the distance. I
Hmm.
went down that road slightly because you opened up that door
Yeah.
and that thing still stands out. That
Yeah.
spirituality, it
Yeah.
still should be the catalyst above all the other stuff
Yeah.
associated with the black church, in my
Well,
opinion.
I don't know about should be Alfred, but then it is, right?
It is okay. It should. Yeah,
But
yeah.
it is
It
currently.
is. Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that also comes from the fact that, listen, the fact, I mean, it begins from what Henry Louis Gates is saying, right? He's saying we conjured something out of nothing
yeah,
and we conjured that thing. And that has just become our mode of survival, right? That has
yeah.
become the black mode of survival. African Americans in this country are forcibly planted here, but have made something out of nothing, right?
Right.
And African Americans, the first African Americans that landed in this country from that ship, from the Middle Passage,
Yeah,
those people were Togolese, they were Nigerians, they were Beninois, they were like,
yeah.
they were Angolans, and they all became one people.
Mm,
Even that itself is a miracle. Even that is a spiritual thing. The fact that once upon a time, everyone was from different walks of life. It's like so many African nations coming together to become a people. That in
people. Now,
itself powerful, right? That in
I got
itself.
one thing based on what you just said, it's one thing I failed to put in here. I
Mhm.
watched a movie, and and I watched because I got Apple TV now. I watched a movie I wouldn't have heard of.
Yeah.
It's a Will Smith movie. I think it's
Oh
Emancipation.
yes, yes, yes. Emancipation.
Uh, I never heard of it, but it told the story of and all through it, all was woven within it. Even when he was pushed, his spirituality was pushed back. But how can you believe this white man's religion? He had he was the embodiment of what you were saying. He knew that the spiritual part, the godly part, the Christian part.
Yes.
And he went through so much.
Yeah.
So that I'm so, I wish I put it up there, but
It's important. I feel like it's important sometimes to watch these movies, but also sometimes to think about the journey here. And many
but
people.
you went directly to the middle of the passage. I never thought about from that aspect. That all
Yes,
these different individuals
from all.
bonded together.
Yeah, they were coming from all parts of the continent, and the continent has so many countries.
Yeah.
It's
And the one
50.
that no one wants to talk about is Egypt. But anyway, that's another conversation.
It's 54 different countries.
Right,
A multitude of people, and
right.
imagine a multitude of nations came together to form one nation. I mean, we cannot forget. So these are three things that I'll throw out there. So first of all, to think about.
Hmm.
The first thing is that we have African roots. All Black church has African roots.
Hmm.
You can't separate the African from the Africana.
Wow. Well, go ahead. Powerful, powerful.
Okay, so
I'm sure
that's
that's gonna be a quote in the AI technology
so,
later.
so the spiritual traditions of Africans came with Africans to this nation. All right.
Hey,
So
can I
let's,
pause you? Please don't lose your thought. But I need to pause you right
I
there.
won't. I won't.
One of those things are the things that was the issue for me,
Yeah.
the shouting and the hollering, the jumping and
Yeah.
the dancing in
The
church,
ring shout.
because I was in a it bothered me from a young age,
Mm-hmm.
so I swung to the eight over for a lot of years into Jehovah's Witnesses, and I went to the Evangelicals, which is another version of them,
Yes.
and because they were more sedated.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what is wrong with my black people? But once I started studying my history, it took
Mm.
me back to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That was part of who we were, who
Yeah.
we are. It's
The
normal.
falling out, all that
Yeah.
somewhere. It's not just it was just not imagined. It's happened
No. It's
somewhere.
part of
Okay.
our culture.
All
It's how
about
we connected to God.
who we are. I don't know if you watched Sinners. Anyone who watched
Oh
Sinners
yeah. I
scene,
watched it 3 times.
that scene, right? That scene that shows you the various steps of the music coming together,
Yeah.
the amalgamation of
Yeah.
peoples. Exactly. The ring shout and Chadian dance could be the same
Yeah.
thing. Could be
Yeah.
the same thing, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, African roots is a big part of it. The second thing is conversion was forced. Okay, so
Yeah.
we cannot negate that. People became Christians by force.
Right.
It was not a negotiation, right? If the master was Christian, you was Christian.
Right.
There was not a negotiation. So it's enforced kind of conversion into something that then they had to use to cover up for the African traditions.
Mhm.
Okay. So they wanted to keep practicing the African traditions under the cover of the Christian tradition.
Wow.
You hear that?
Yeah.
Which is why, I mean, I know everybody know about Nat Turner. That's why Nat Turner's sermons were not really about the Bible.
Ah, no.
That's why his sermons were basically roadmaps of how to get the hell up out of there.
Yeah, pretty much.
So think about all this as ingenuity, think about it as creativity, think about it as making a way out of no way.
They conjured up something out of nothing.
Conjuring up something out of nothing. I mean, I couldn't have said it better than Skip. Okay. And then the last is out of that emerged independent congregations that looked nothing like the master's Christianity. Okay. So when we're talking about that, we're now later on in the 1800s talking about the AME. But even before that, plantation churches looked completely different from anything. Eventually, even the masters started to come to the congregation churches because they were like, there's something going on here. There's something in the spirit that's here that's not what we've got. What is it? Right? It's attractive, it's creative, it's exciting, right? So that happened, emergence of independent congregations. And then lastly, of course, the institutionalization of those independent congregations and what people then now became to think of as plantation church or plantation Christianity or Black Christianity is what became Black church. Yeah. And so with Richard Allen creating the AME church in 1816, why? Because the United Methodists would not let Black people worship in the same.
If anyone wants to know where she's getting that from, one of the books here, it was touched upon the book, The Black History of the White House by Clarence of Salt. It was touched upon. That hit me home. Another book that you can check out because all listed in the text is Unsettling Truths: The Ongoing Dehumanizing Legacy of the Doctrine of Discovery.
Exactly.
So those 3 books are there.
All these things are embroiled with what is called the doctrine of discovery. We won't get into that today because we have to talk about the Black church, which is more important.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know how many things were embroiled into that.
I love it though.
But we can come back and talk about that some other time.
Yeah, I love it that you brought those up. But that we have to think about those 4 things that actually that's what conjuring something out of nothing means. It means that we came with our own traditions and many times we kept them.
Yeah. Didn't lose them at all.
Actually, now many people now are openly practicing Africana traditions like Orisha and other traditions that are not necessarily known as African American, right?
Right.
There's lots of people who are hoodoo practitioners, right? At the same time, you're Catholic or you're Pentecostal or something like that.
Right.
So it's not something that's awkward right? And the good thing about Africana traditions, I would say, I won't even talk about Africana tradition, but the good thing about African religions is African religions play very nicely with other religions. They're not
Yeah.
greedy. They're not greedy.
Mm-mm.
No.
Mm-mm.
And they allow
Right.
you to practice whatever gives you, for them, flourishing is the goal.
Yeah.
So African traditions are not threatened by Jesus.
Mm.
No.
And I'm sorry. Let me step away 1 second. 1 second.
Okay.
1 second.
Okay.
1 second.
I
You
would need
see,
a break.
I've not finished it, and I may never finish it because it is so thick.
Hmm.
But it's one of the things that I you say pisses off a lot of some of my church folk.
Yeah.
I have this in
Yeah.
my library.
Oh, that's a question. That's a conversation for another day. Well, lots
Yeah.
of people think Christianity came with the colonialists, but Africa had Christianity before the colonialists. So
And they feel that one little text in all the Greek scriptures, the New Testament, because I've learned both languages, Arabic, Greek. Not I haven't learned the languages, but that text is written in the original languages, which it says Ethiopian eunuch, and
yes,
then everything else was built
yeah,
around
that
that.
features in the Bible to this day.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
but
we got lots of conversations to have.
anyway, but
Anyway, but
yeah,
yeah, but that's
you're the one person that I know can bring this heavy hitting stuff out on.
yeah.
Anyway, go
So
ahead, continue.
African traditions were very able to coexist with Christianity and neither canceled each other out. It didn't cancel anything out by you
Yeah,
practicing, which is
but
why in Caribbean countries, and I know there might be some Caribbean people watching this, right?
yeah,
In Caribbean countries,
especially on Facebook, I got 3,000 Facebook people in
yeah,
Philadelphia and places.
there
So
you
yeah,
go, right? So you have Haitians who 100% are Vodou practitioners, right? They're
yeah,
Vodouisans and
yeah,
100% Catholic,
yeah.
and not and nothing really bothers them by being both.
Mm-mm. But
Okay,
it bothers the Catholic side though.
yeah, you have Afro Brazilians who are 100% Candomblé and are 100% Christian, and they do not feel Catholic as well, but do not feel like they are taking anything away from the other, one from the other,
Mm. Yeah.
because African traditions are not greedy and they're not selfish.
And people, some love saying Africa is the motherland, but Africa is the foundation of all of this, in my opinion.
Well,
Worship
I have many thoughts about that. I
to a
think that
certain degree.
yes, to a certain degree, it's a very totalizing way to think about things, and sometimes it kind of negates the nuance between the realities of how African people are scattered on this earth, right? So
Eh,
I do not like to say that we all came from the same place. We
Let me say, I'm not
think
saying
about
this.
God as
Let
the
me,
same, or like create
what,
as the cradle of Africa.
yeah. Well, I
Right.
think what I'm trying to say, I'm using the vernacular that I'm accustomed to using
Yes.
in the sense that of Africa as being a continent where all different types of people originated from.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
Uh,
could argue that. I could argue
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
could argue that. I could make that argument. I mean, definitely. But I feel like that single origin story is usually said to kind of shut our minds to the reality that we
yeah.
separate. Yeah.
And see, I can go down. You allow in this conversation, in this
Well, let's
podcast,
move
I'm
to actual language.
I'm going places I would not go with other people. I'm going.
Okay.
I had a Muslim, a gentleman who studied Islam.
Yes.
He's the only one who ever walked off the show when
Yes.
I started bringing up certain things I'm going to bring up now. But he
Yeah.
wasn't black either, but he had studied it.
Yeah.
But here's the point I'm going to bring up, and I've shared it when it's when I was worshiping alongside the evangelicals. I've
Yes.
shared in contact the same point.
Yeah.
People want to get into the Genesis account of Noah,
Hmm.
and that's one of the things I will take from my 30 years living in the Jehovah's Witnesses. I got to study history and biblical history and real history in that context. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I'll never forget learning about was that the Native Americans had a story of 9 survivors,
Yeah.
but they were called Noah.
Ah,
So we can't lay claim to something that's a global story,
yeah.
different cultures.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
but that's just a little tidbit. I throw that out there sometimes to offend folks, or,
uh-huh. Here.
or my wife might say to make people mad. because they
Mhm.
want to we want to lay claim that this is our Christianity, this is our Bible, this is our church.
That's native to Christianity, though.
Yeah,
Christianity is very, very territorial.
I
It
never
has
thought of,
been.
yeah,
It has been from the beginning. From the
beginning.
beginning, its whole story is a territorial story. The doctrine of discovery is a story about grabbing territory.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
I didn't realize that until
We could
I
actually see
listened to it, then I got
right,
the book, and
right.
I thought I read the physical book, and I saw the words jump off the page,
Yeah.
until I loaned the book out and never got it back.
It began with land. Now we can't see where the territory. Now the territory is spiritual, but like before,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
physical territory, right?
yeah.
So I would go, I would conquer a place. That's what colonialism was, right? I conquer a place. I force everybody to become Christian, right?
But yeah, and that's what going back to what you mentioned before. In one of my poems, I said it was Christianity was force fed into us.
Mhm.
This version of
Yeah.
it, not the version that our ancestors
One
brought
we
with
ended
them.
up with, right? Not the one that we ended up with either, right?
Mm,
But the one that we got, the
mm,
forced conversion. Remember, I talked about it. African
yeah,
roots, forced conversion, and then emergence of independent congregations. It's a cycle. It goes like that. You cannot
mm,
start from the independent congregations.
right.
They come from there are marriage between the African roots and the first conversion,
What's conversion? Okay.
right? So Christianity is here being built in the crucible of slavery and pain and oppression. So
Mm,
sometimes when Christianity is oppressive, you're surprised. You're like, how come this church is oppressing me?
right.
Because that's its parent.
Mhm.
That's its parent. Its parents
Wow.
were enslavement
Hmm.
and grabbing of territory, right?
Hmm.
Ownership, right? We've talked about,
Ownership.
I'm going to talk about ownership in a different way, but like
Yeah.
grabbing of territory, owning people, owning things, owning space, owning minds.
Yeah.
That's where Christianity began. So you can't tell a story of Christianity without talking about what happens in the 15th and the 16th century,
Hmm.
right? Because in the 15th and the 16th century, basically, we are basically nurturing our little thing that Skip Gates is talking about. And then
Hmm.
spirituals become something that help us make it bigger,
Hmm.
which then makes it into what we then have. Then we have the AME Church, and we have Richard Allen in Philadelphia saying,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to start our own church. Why do we have to go to
Yeah.
church with Paul all the time? We're free.
Yeah.
So why do we
Yeah.
have to go to your church? We're going to make our
Yeah.
own church.
Like our own church. Um, I had an opportunity. We had the privilege of visiting the site of the oldest black church on record in Williamsburg, Virginia. I
Yes.
stood outside beside the plaque and took a picture of it. I should have brought the photograph up here.
Mhm.
I might attempt to do something I've never done before and bring the image up here while we speak. But
Okay.
yeah, it went way back to that time period.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm like, wow, the roots run deep in this country.
Yeah.
They run deep. Uh,
And
Continue talking. I'm trying to do something I never tried to do before, but you're
okay,
still on
I'm
camera.
gonna continue. Yeah, I think majority of what was happening is now that was the beginning also of what we call congregationalism. So before they just used to be like, this is my house, and then we all meet in the field outside my heart in my backyard, and we then have
Mhm.
church, right? And then people started
Right?
having church together. So we started building what is called congregationalism, which is in the 17th century, right? And then what
Hmm.
else happens in the 17th century? Azusa. So if you've never heard
What's
about
that?
Azusa, it's like it's something
I've
that
never
we know,
heard of that.
Great Awakening. If you've ever heard of the Great
I heard of the
Awakening.
Great Awakening, yes,
Yes,
that
so the
term.
Great Awakening, the first Great Awakening is somewhere in the 1730s up to about 1740s. And you have all these very charismatic preachers, Jonathan Edwards, George Whitfield, very bombastic preachers coming out. Why? Because they're
Hmm.
engaging with their slave preachers in the plantation and hearing how we speak and hoop and holler. And they're starting to do that in white spaces for white people.
Wow.
All right. So now suddenly there's this rise of a Pentecostal fervor.
Hmm.
And this is where evangelicalism begins.
Wow.
Okay. So evangelicalism is, but then the second great awakening is now 1790s to about 1840s, because now people start doing what we call crusades and going from
Yeah.
city to city, and traveling preachers start to
Yeah.
go
The tent revivals and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
exactly revivals, going around the country and preaching and teaching. And we have so many camp meetings. That's what they were called.
Yeah. That's the other word.
Camp
Yeah.
meetings. And people would just show up in hordes, numbers, to go listen to some of these very charismatic preachers. Okay. So this is the history of what is now becoming before the American Revolution. That's all happening, right? We
Yeah.
all become really, really, in step with some kind of spiritual movement that is going around the country. And then we start to name certain congregations. We start to become the Methodists and the Baptists and the
Yeah.
Anabaptists.
Yeah.
Right? We start to name ourselves that. All this begins like this. Okay. And at this point now, it's not only white people, it's a religious marketplace now, involves everybody,
Right. Yeah.
including the black people.
Yeah. You get like the AME, you get the
The
Pentecostals,
UMC is there, the Pentecostals,
US Unitarian
you know,
churches.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then towards the tail end and in the beginning of the 19th century, then you have people like Billy Graham. Okay.
Yeah.
So all this has its own history, right? It has its own history, and there's some kind of diversity of thought that is cross-shared across cultures and across people. And eventually what we have when we talk about the Kojic, for example, or
Yeah.
when we talk about the AME church, right, is an
Yeah.
amalgam of this thought, right? And I
Mhm.
like that religious marketplace idea, because you think, actually what was happening is you're trying to beat who's gonna be the best preacher, who's gonna have the best music. Isn't that
Yeah.
what we're still doing today, right? Who's gonna have the best music?
Yeah. Because usually one of the first things you ask you,
Who's
who's your
gonna
pastor? What's
right?
your home church?
You
Where do
have
you go?
here, you have Adventists here, you have
Yeah.
all of these congregations forming in this marketplace.
Yeah.
And this becomes almost like this is all our entertainment. We ain't got no TV by this time.
No.
Ain't
That's
got no
it. You're right.
TV.
You
It's
know, TV,
either,
radio is just barely making it out. Yeah.
right. It's either that or the saloon. So,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
we're doing. That's what we're doing. And a lot, and I will say, I mean, a lot of the progress of this country is hinged on that. I think that we became a much better America for it,
Mhm.
right? A lot of things that eventually emerged as stalwart moments in this country,
Yeah.
including the Constitution, including the creation of just an independent state, the creation of democracy, is all rooted in Christianity. And so we can't
Yeah.
fault it for that. We can't fault it for that. The progress actually is, manifest destiny. And manifest destiny was the goal, and the goal was, in fact, accomplished.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and
Did you?
that goes back. And that goes back again. Well, it don't goes back, but it highlights how.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna stay on this point a
Okay.
lot,
Go ahead.
but it highlights how Christian nationalism came to the forefront
Oof. Now, Christian,
because they
I love
because
the addition.
because I'm gonna say because without realizing it, so many people don't. I mean, I don't know how many people know or don't know.
Yeah.
I was an adult before I came to understand
Right.
that the Ku Klux Klan was a church.
Absolutely. Is a church.
I did. It is a church. Yes, a
Yeah.
church.
It's actually a social
Yeah,
movement. It's actually a social movement. That's my research. I do social activism.
yeah.
And
So, but it was labeled as such. They couldn't be taxed, but it was done so in the South.
well,
Um, and I just threw that out there,
yeah.
and it's not as popular as other groups now
Yes.
are in name, but the construct of it was based
Yes.
on their version of Christianity,
That
and
is true.
that's a white power superiority
Yeah.
rooted in a cross type
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah. You could think about it as like a club,
Yeah.
that's attached to a Christian church, right? So you could think
Yeah.
about it as I'm Anglican, so
Yeah.
Mothers Union. We have like something called the Mothers Union, where it's like women
Okay.
of a certain age are able to then be recruited into this group, and you get the
Okay.
fancy little headscarf, and then
Right.
you become a member of this Mothers Union,
Right.
right? And you could name it across the churches. I'm sure there's many other. The Adventists have their own one, the Scout,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
other. So you could think about
This
it, the KKK
this church
as
that
one
the church that I
church.
just joined, which I said I wasn't joining another church, I caved
Yeah.
in and joined
Mhm.
another church. They have a 55 and older club group of
Yeah.
men.
Mhm.
They call it by a different name, but it's like, oh, how old are you? I said, I'm 63. Oh, you belong in the 55 and older group.
Yeah.
Oh, guys. I'm
And
like,
y'all play ball
okay.
together. Right, right.
Yeah, and they go ball games together, and I haven't
Breakfast.
done any of that stuff yet, but I'm there on the list.
It's
Yeah,
good. Religion is a social determinant of health, right? So
yeah,
part of what Christianity's role was, and I like that you used changing social norms, was actually those normative activities. So activities to kind of make sure that we're having the right type of family, having healthy marriages, raising healthy children who are, able to be healthy adults in the country,
hmm
right? That's what Christianity was doing, right? And churches then were borrowing those mandates, right,
hmm
as part of their mandate, right? So if I'm a church pastor, right, I want to make sure that I have my VBS, I have all these vacation Bible school for those who are
yeah.
understand, right?
Don't know
Like,
yet. So
yeah,
some don't know what it is. I know what it is. So yeah, I never
Christian.
understood. I've never understood the concept though, but I know what it is.
Yeah, you have all that stuff like vacation Bible school, you have Sunday school, you have all these little things to keep people busy while also teaching them what is perceived to be acceptable morality and what we're calling social norms, right? These are the ways that this is what a good Christian woman looks like. That's where you hear
Mhm.
that, right? This
Yeah,
is what a good Christian home looks like, right?
yeah,
A Christian. Are you drinking? Why are you drinking? Why are you listening to that rock and roll? How are those things connected? It was almost like a policing of social morality. And it kind of then was roped in to the context and also to the practice of being in church community.
yeah. I lived it for so long in that sense. That's why sometimes I've been labeled as a heretic. I've been labeled as a non-believer.
I mean,
A lot
we
of
are
things.
heretics somehow and somewhere.
Because I'm like, I I, I feel I can't say it, but as I talk about it, it's funny. I can't even
Please
say it now.
say
I
something.
I feel more comfortable now being
Yeah.
able to say, you know what?
Mm,
I don't mind being part of this church body and this group, but I'm
mm.
not gonna lose my personal identity to have to line up with your perceptions of what a Christian is supposed to be.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because
And
because
and I think that's
I still hear often what a Christian husband's supposed to be and what a
yeah.
Christian wife's supposed to be, and you're supposed to be this and you're
Oh,
supposed to be that.
friends, please let that go. Just be who you and your man can be, or be who and you and who your woman can be. I think that actually marriage is one of the institutions that makes us better. Let your marriage
Yeah,
be something that challenges you.
let's see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
and
just
even
make fit in a box that somebody imagined, right? I think that the two of you are individuals, and every marriage is as individual as the two individuals in them. So,
and I agree with you 100% on that. I'm bringing it also back to other areas. That I'm speaking for my own self and people I've known
yeah,
because I've known quite people. You've known quite a few people,
yeah,
even down to the workplace. And I go back to that
yeah.
30 some year life I lived. That you're supposed to be this way, so they see you as a Christian this way in that box in that box. But yet, or no, I'm gonna pull away from me. I'm gonna use an old Southern thing,
Yeah.
a Southern thing.
It's so
It's,
the,
it's a Southern thing. The state of North Carolina, which state of my home state, because and it, where for the longest time
yeah.
you could work on Sunday, but
Hmm.
you couldn't sell alcohol on Sunday.
Yes, because prohibition. Prohibition.
Pro, prohibition, and the churches wouldn't allow it. The
But it
churches
was
fought
because of
against
prohibition first.
yeah,
Prohibition came
prohibition first,
and
yeah.
then made,
Eh,
yeah, worse. was told by the churches, right? The churches instituted prohibition, and then
Prohibition, yeah,
if you wanted to drink on Sunday, you couldn't because the shops was
yeah,
not
yeah.
going to sell it to you.
No, and then you couldn't gamble, you couldn't do lottery,
That's it.
you couldn't do. It was
The
so
Lord,
many things you could not do.
the Lord's days have it's the
I'm
Lord's
like, come
days.
on, people,
It is. It's the
live
Lord.
life.
Let the Lord have the Lord's day.
Yeah, that's another word too. That's another one. Let the Lord say the Lord's day. What you do it on Sunday when the Sabbath fell on Saturday.
Listen,
Don't get
don't
me
get
started.
yourself confused. I mean, we can talk about it forever if we start to talk about differences. But I think that the thing is congregations. I think that we should also be cognizant of that and not make, kind of lump sum the whole, the whole notion of Christianity into one bubble, right?
And that's I'm glad you mentioned. I'm glad you hit that point because that's my whole thing as I get older. Maybe because I'm
Mhm.
getting older.
Yes.
Is that Christianity don't have to fit one bubble or one model.
No.
And if you get tired of that model and that bubble, you can move on to another bubble and another model.
That's true. That's true. And you can whichever bottle is making you happy today, Mr. Alfred, you have worked for it. Okay. You have
Yeah,
worked for it and you deserve to go wherever you feel welcome and feel at home. But this
yeah.
is important to say. Christianity is not a catch-all term. No, not at
No, but
not
it's
at
used
all.
as a catch-all term.
Yeah, and we've talked about the denominations, and denominations have their own standards and their own rules.
Yeah,
All those are based on something called hermeneutics. Now, hermeneutics is what we call interpretation, right? So, if you know the Greek god Hermes, right?
yeah,
Hermes was a messenger, right?
yeah,
Like many of our pastors are. And Hermes would get the message from the gods and then tell it to the people. That was Hermes's job. And Hermes would also send messages between gods, right? But
yeah.
that's basically what it
Oh, I
is.
used to love myself in Greek mythology and Roman mythology.
Oh,
I pulled away from it for a long time, but you might get me going back.
you can get overwhelmed. But yeah, but that basically is it, that we actually are products of our pastor's interpretations.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
So
and
when you go to one church, right, the pastor might be like, I have a little wine with my dinner. I don't mind.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Go to another church, the church is like, don't even sniff it. If you sniff
No,
it, you are
yeah, I
going
get it.
to hell.
Yeah, it's going straight to hell.
You're going to
Or
hell.
or
If
I've known of pastors who take that word and throw it out there, and no one even has a clue what it means.
that's true.
Hermeneutics or Hermes,
That is very
but
true.
it sounds good.
Yeah.
So you can. So when they use that term, they use it to condemn another church.
Yeah. But we have to also realize that pastors are human. Okay.
Yeah,
So just as fallible as we are, I
yeah,
think that that's also saying something about interpretation. Interpretation can be mistaken.
yeah. I'm gonna take a deep dive real back
Okay.
to the opening quote because I'm a
Yeah,
quote fanatic.
sure.
In my book, which is all you can say is the sponsorship of this show, but I did today.
Mhm, mhm.
But
Yes.
going back to
That is poetry.
Socrates, and I know you're gonna take a spin. This time you can really take a spin on that with that other quote and all you're saying.
Okay.
I purposely went to use Socrates' quote, which I'm gonna throw in this mix of
Okay.
this dialogue. When he said, "I decided it was not wisdom that enabled poets to write their poetry, but a kind of instinct or inspiration such as you find in seers and prophets who deliver their sublime messages without knowing the least what they mean.
Mm.
Quite often, mm,
Often not knowing what it means,
not what it means.
but
Yeah.
delivering the message nonetheless.
Nonetheless,
I don't know. I feel like Socrates, if in fact people were doing that, we might be in a better off place. I feel like people are applying their own mind to things. This is why we're in the problem we had.
I ain't gonna touch that one, but you touch that one because I agree with you 100%.
I think
Because
I actually think Socrates that time when that was happening, we were better off because then you
yeah,
knew that the muse was the one speaking, right? So if I
yeah,
mouthpiece for God, if I said, "Hey," you knew exactly who it was who was talking, right?
yeah.
But now I'll sit with that message, I'll chew on it, I'll, marinate it a little bit, and then I'll spit it out to you. And it won't sound nothing like what I heard.
No, uh-uh.
So
It won't.
I feel like Socrates, that when the prophets and the seers could be believed, right?
Yeah. But
When we,
nowadays,
yeah, when we could believe the vision. I mean, African indigenous traditions, I think, for is are so totalizing because in indigenous traditions, everybody hears the message.
thank you. Thank you. Say it
Everybody,
again.
everybody hears the message. Not one person with some special kind of auditory nerve that will hear it. There is no question about what is expected from God.
Oh,
None.
it's clear. It's concise.
It's clear. It's right. It's definitely not harmful.
No,
I mean,
no.
so
There's no.
I would push. I would say, heck yeah, Socrates. I wish that that's where we still were, when the prophets and the seers, actually we could trust them. When we could trust them, and we could say, actually, this person hears from God,
Yeah.
and the message that they're giving me, I have been confirmed to by God in my sleep, in my dream, maybe, or
Right.
someone else. I've heard it from so many people, so it must be God speaking.
Must be God
Now
speaking.
we
Yeah.
have folks that just say whatever the hell they want to say, right?
And it rolls
And
off and it goes
then claim that God is speaking.
yeah. Or
And danger.
one of the things that one of my a red flag is, and God told me,
Go
but
to
who
I
else did
said,
He
God didn't
tell?
tell me.
Yeah.
Until God
Uh,
tells me, we gotta
yeah.
we have to not go too hard on them. But that's it. I'm like, God told me. No, no, no. I feel like I go more with the Bible says, and I think that it means. I go better with that. But like God told
Yeah.
me,
That's easier to process. Yeah.
right. So
Versus the
God
guys
told me,
because
I'm like skeptical. I'm like, God
yeah,
told you when? How did
yeah.
He say?
What do you, uh
Yeah, I'm
because of
skeptical.
my church hopping as they call it.
Yeah,
I was in a small church in Greensboro many
yeah.
years ago, and I accepted what they call a right hand to fellowship, the
Hmm.
procedures, and I went out
Yeah.
front and I did the right hand shake thing, and then one of the deacons. I tell this story a lot. I've told it a lot.
Hmm.
And one of the deacons, the right hand deacon or whatever his title was, leaned over to me and said, "Do you sit back in his ear?" But again,
Alfred, I think we are losing you.
we're back. We're
Oh
back.
yeah, yes, we're back. Oh, what just happened?
Okay,
Okay,
so
what was it you can say? Because
let me look here. Let me. I was one of these churches. I didn't realize I was one of these small churches in
Mhm.
Greensboro many years ago on my part of my journey,
Right.
and so after accepting the right hand of fellowship, as they call it, that
Mm.
church, the lead deacon of whatever his title was, beside the
Yeah.
pastor, he pulled me in close and said, "Do you accept the Lord Jesus as your Lord and Savior?" And I pulled back a second and leaned back in. I gotta do it again. I just did it at the last church. I said, I thought Jesus, and then whispered at him, I said, I thought Jesus was over all the churches.
Right. How
And
many Jesus is there?
his eyes got so big because I
How,
wasn't supposed to question
that's it.
that.
Now, am I supposed to do it? I would have just said, I already have.
Like, so I thought this was the joining process, not the I got to do it again process.
Right.
But that
So,
goes back to, again, I think the evolution of Christianity.
hmm,
Are we open to the evolution? Are we open to examining our history as you brought it out for us so eloquently today? Are
so
we
good.
open to reading a few books by those who have researched it? Are we
That's
open to realizing that the way we worship today is foundation and was laid in our ancestors who never surrendered their spiritual roots, but
right.
found a way to carry them over?
Hmm.
And are we willing to acknowledge a lot of what we do today in our church life, regardless of our denomination, is
Yeah.
rooted in all of that?
Yes.
And we have survived 400 years of it and
Yes.
still are here
Yeah.
and still are unified, I think, as you brought out earlier,
Yes.
whether
Yes.
in some degree or another. And yes, there's a lot of disunity
Mm.
And there's a lot of that, what called white man mentalities that controls some of us.
Yeah.
Are we willing to challenge that on a personal level when we
Mm-hmm.
see it for what it is? And say, you
Mm.
know what? Cool, I'm part of this denomination. I'm part of this church. I'm part of that church. But I am still part of God's family, like my
Absolutely.
ancestors were.
Absolutely.
So you may be a shouter, you may be a dancer. I may
Mm.
praise in silence in my heart, but
Yeah.
that makes me no less than you
Yeah.
because God hears our silent thoughts as
Yeah.
well as our spoken words. And I'm
Yes.
going poetic on you right now, so I'm pull away from this conversation.
I love that. I love that. I love the way you put it. I mean I wouldn't even add anything. I think that definitely at the center of every historical event, right? Or evolution. Let's use evolution, right? At the center of historical events, evolutions is people.
People,
And we shouldn't forget that. We shouldn't forget that we are the ones building the world we want to live in,
yeah.
right?
And
We're building the Christianity we want to follow.
every single day,
Mhm.
uh, back in that so-called "What Would Jesus Do" movement period, when people did when the bracelet meant
Yeah,
really nothing.
it's like-
Uh, I, when I was now, I guess that's why I like the church where I'm at now because the pastor's a storyteller, and I'm a
yeah,
storyteller. So I get more out of parables and stories than
yeah,
I do out of other stuff. So this is my
yeah.
learning style.
Hmm.
So I remember sitting in one of the small groups.
Hmm.
I don't know what book it was. Oh, when we're studying history, the book, The Life of Abraham,
Yeah.
and their faces, because I was the only black face in the whole room.
Mm-hmm.
The look on their faces went like when I mentioned that Abraham said his other son will also be blessed into a mighty nation.
Hmm.
They didn't
Yeah.
want to hear that part. And then it came back around to some of what we're talking about now,
Yeah.
about how people were treated here in America. And
Yeah.
one of the men who I learned later was a former pastor
Mm.
said to me, "We didn't do that. We didn't do that to y'all, to people, black people. They did it." I said, "But they are your ancestors.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The
And
connectivity."
someone told me this. It may have been my therapist. Someone told me the thing you hate the most in yourself is in your parents. The thing you hate the most in your parents, you hate it because it's in you,
Yeah, yeah,
because you've
that's a
inherited it.
yeah, yeah. I deal with
And
that quite a
I've
bit.
been,
My therapist.
I was about to, I'm like, ma'am, I pay you. What are you talking about? Right? But
Yeah,
that's it. That's it. The reason why I'm so upset by this thing, because it's so intolerable in my parents, is because I
yeah,
see it rising in me.
yeah, yeah. And that goes again to the impact of us as members of
Mm-hmm.
the Black church, because each individual member brings some of that with them into the church.
It is. I mean, there's some research that's been said about I think it's guinea pigs. And guinea pigs, their body and their DNA carries into multiple generations. So the traumas of generations, like maybe 4 or 5 generations before,
Wow,
are resident in the DNA of a guinea pig born today. So maybe,
wow,
for example, 5 generations ago, a guinea pig knew, and I talk about this when I talk about swimming, right? A guinea pig knew that water was dangerous. If you bring water into the room, they will automatically be scared, even though they've never seen water before,
right.
because the fight or flight response inside them is in their DNA. It's been inscribed in your DNA. So it's in enslavement was inscribed in our DNA. It doesn't mean that you had to have actually been enslaved and been on a plantation to carry the memories and the stories of the people who were enslaved.
That's one of the I've shared often, and I share a lot when I get in other environments.
Yeah.
That's the one place I made peace with my grandmother,
Yeah.
my maternal grandmother, because I talk about some of the things I talk about in my book, the things I speak of, the trauma I deal with, the therapy,
Yeah.
and I sometimes focus too much on the abandonment side
Yes.
instead of the the glorification side, which was because she came out of slavery,
Yeah.
she knew how to provide
Yeah.
and get by with next to nothing
Yeah.
and make sure we had the basics. So the
Yeah.
idea of having a lot was never part of that.
Hmm.
Okay. But on
Yeah.
the ugly side of it was she knew how to be evil and mean and hateful
Yeah.
because when she ran away from home for the first time, her father took her and her sister
Yeah.
into the barn and beat them with a horse whip the way master had beat him.
Yes.
So she had those memories etched in her to want now need to write about that part of her life. Thank you
Yes.
for giving me something else to write about. But yeah, so I'm gonna say, well, that's
That's a reality.
but see, that's how I am able to justify that some of the things I went through under her
Yeah.
watch, some of the things my mother went through under her watch.
Yeah.
Basically, like you said, the guinea pig scenario, experiment.
5 generations.
She loved, she carried it in her DNA.
Yeah.
She loved the way she was loved.
Yeah.
It wasn't right. The
Hmm.
abuse wasn't right in multiple levels,
But
but
she
that's
didn't
what.
feel wrong
But
with
she
it.
was she was fresh. Her father and mother were slaves.
Can you imagine?
Then her father became a preacher.
Yeah.
As my aunt in New Jersey would say, a no good preacher.
Right.
But he knew what he learned on the plantation.
That's it. But this, what you're saying is perfect because this is where we come to the spirituals becoming a catalyst, right?
Okay.
The same thing that broke us down was the thing that was putting us together.
Wow.
It was in the church that they were finding humanity. They would be broken down in the plantation Monday to Friday to Saturday. And on Sunday, they would be in the presence of their friends, and they would hug and they would dance and they would talk and they would laugh and they would eat pounds and pounds of chicken.
Yeah.
The church was putting them back together. And at the same time, it was the thing that destroyed them.
The church was putting him back together, but at the same time, it destroyed.
Which is why we're so attached to Christianity. And I feel like people don't take that seriously enough, right? That you could be, God knows, good for nothing preacher, right?
Yeah.
You could be that good for nothing preacher, but Christianity is where you are your best self. How come? How come? And so these things coexist. They live in the same bubble. They coexist.
Yeah.
So as much as I feel like you bringing up, I can't stand them, our ancestors, because part of them is in us.
Part of us.
So you find your way, you'd be trying to be, I wish I could just become a Muslim.
But you find your way.
Well, Abby, you just gotta be in trouble to hear that Jesus come out of you. Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your first instinct. Nobody, even people who are atheists.
Yeah.
I don't go to nobody's church. I never prayed a day in my life. But in that moment, it'd be like, help me, Jesus.
Help me, Jesus.
Jesus
Right
and mom. It'd be Jesus and mama.
Yeah. Right there.
Right there. It's in us, right? It has become. And because it came out of nothing, it's actually one of the most solid things in African American culture today.
Yeah.
It's the most reticent of historical image and identity in this country.
Yeah.
So the Black community is my majority Christian. I have a colleague named Anthony Pinn who would argue against that and say, actually, we were humanists. And I said, yes, you were at first, before you got to the plantation. But, Anthony says, well, now many of us are turning to humanism again. And I would say, yeah, that makes sense because it feels more natural to us, right? We're more family oriented. We're more collective oriented. That's more natural to us. And churches are not doing a very good job of maintaining that collectivity. In fact, if anything, churches have made us very separatist of one another. And so many people are now eschewing or pushing away from Christianity because of that. Because I just wanna love people, man.
And you can't. But see, that's the thing. So I've heard it's said often: love God and love people. But
Right.
my definition of loving God and loving people is
Mhm.
I can be truthful with you, and it may sting you a little bit, but
Right.
that doesn't mean I hate you because I'm stinging you with what I'm speaking. It
But
doesn't mean my words are, but
isn't
but
that
and
true love? I
but
mean, we
that's
protect our children, and
but
then
that's
what
but
we
that's
can
not love, and that's not love in the church sense.
yeah,
Is what I would count it
not
off.
anymore. Not anymore. But like I
Yeah,
mean, like I think about it like children. Kids will when they mess up, sometimes you gotta get them, right? You
yeah,
gotta be like you're grounded, you have to take things away and whatever, but it's not a permanent situation. It's
no,
only for correction, right?
right,
And we have lost the grace of accepting criticism and changing with that criticism and not then breaking off the relationship.
yeah, yeah, and yeah. I've been one of those who've broken off quite a few relationships because
I
of that.
mean, I mean,
But
church folk
but that's
love to cut you off.
but that's going back. But that's going back to even now.
Church folk
Again,
love.
I'm gonna wrap this up because we have to do a part two of this.
We
I
got
already see that right now.
yes.
Uh, where
We are almost out
and
of time.
where I'm bringing myself into this whole thing again,
Mhm.
and where I'm at now. I was like after I, my recent encounters,
Yes,
I was the person who would go hard and take and follow my heart instead of my head.
that's
And then
it.
if I started thinking,
And wouldn't
I'm
the
like,
world be a better?
them thinking, how did I end up over here?
Yeah.
So even with the place I now claim, just recently went through the new members procedures last Sunday, which was
Mhm.
really laid back there. Where else
Yeah.
I didn't go with that intent. I went there that particular Sunday several almost a month ago to join that 55 and olders group
Yeah.
because I was informed that I did not have to be a member to be part of the group for the first time.
Okay.
So that was different because everywhere else is you got to join us and then you get the benefits of us.
Oh,
I was able to get the benefit of a brotherhood without
yeah.
joining, and I was so welcomed in by the few brothers being genuine and transparent. I'm like, where's the paper at?
That's it. Now I want to come to your church. I mean, churches
But
have
it goes
lost
back to what you
it.
just mentioned about the humanist part of it is
They've
that
lost it.
their humanity was there,
Yes.
and then they had a little meeting in between that last Sunday before that, a couple of Sundays before that, where it was like a welcoming thing and
Yeah.
give people an idea of what the church was like, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there with the guy who closes it out. I'm standing on the lawn. They did it outside. And
Yeah.
this guy who closes out almost every service since I've been there,
Mm,
and he's sitting there talking to me like he's known me for 20 years.
mm.
And he's like, he told, I gotta tell his story. He's not following me yet, but I gotta tell his story.
Yeah.
He was like, I didn't learn my real name until I got to school. I'm like, wait. I'm like, I'm like, what? I'm like, tell me his story.
Oh,
He's like, I thought my name was Terry. I got to school and they called me Terrence. And I'm looking around and see what the teacher calling.
yes.
And because he's like,
Right.
when the time I was born, everybody called me Terry at
Uh,
home. So he's like, and then, but what brought me in the other side of things is he said to me, he said, I have a PhD.
mhm,
I'm this, I'm that, I'm that.
mhm,
But what drew me here was I could just be me.
mhm.
And no one cared about my PhD. No one
Yeah.
cared about putting me in leadership. None of that stuff.
Mhm,
I don't, I'm like, he says, like when I was a kid, I
mhm,
didn't really know who I was until I got to school. So
mhm.
I got here and I realized I could
I
be
could just
me
be
as an
Terry.
adult.
I could just be Terry.
Because
It's so
it's just,
funny.
but literally, he's like, literally, when he started school, elementary school, he
Yeah.
didn't know his real name.
Yeah.
And now, as an adult, he walked in his own identity in this place, which I'm not going to name right. I'll name it next time we talk, probably. But in
Yes.
this church we're now part of now, he could be his own self. He
Yeah.
came in, he went from different places and leadership roles associated
Mm,
with titles to
mm.
walking in here where he could just be his own self.
Yeah.
And he was handed opportunity. He took
Yeah.
it. But it wasn't because he had a PhD. He wasn't because he studied ministry. It was simply because he came with an open heart and they welcomed him first. Then they
Absolutely.
found out. The
That's it.
humanist part that your coworker talked about, they accept
Mhm.
him as a human being first.
That's it. It'd be like majority
But
white.
anyway, let's get ready to wrap this up with some closing thoughts
Yeah.
on the impact of the Black church, as
Hmm.
we've talked about a lot today. What can you say in final thoughts?
So I would say I like that word impact, but actually you said impact and influence.
Well, the influence had to be taken out of it because it was too many characters. But you can,
Okay.
however you want to go with it. Yeah.
Okay. But I think that actually the impact of the Black church is mostly on folks that consider themselves a part of the Black church. That's so
Okay.
internal, right? But influence sounds more external to me, right?
Okay.
So what is the influence of the Black church now? I mean, we've talked a little bit about what the influence of the Black church was before. I talked about the Great Awakenings and
Right.
how it was a big part of shaping this kind of joie de vivre, like a joyful kind of Christianity that then now became a part of a lot of evangelicalism, the birth of denominationalism also becoming a part of the ways that people practiced church, right? I would definitely think that the impact in the past was also that Black people had a place to pray, but also a place to organize. Now, that's a whole nother
But
topic.
see, that's what I said. If you're
We
open to
gotta
it,
do
let's
a
get,
part two. We gotta
if you
do
open
a part
to,
two because if I start talking
yeah,
about activism, we're not leaving tonight.
huh?
Right? If we start talking about activism, we wouldn't be leaving
Yeah.
tonight.
So
Right. So
let's look at the influence next time.
yes.
I come with some title, influence activism of the Black church.
Okay, sure.
Um,
We could do
yeah.
that.
But anyway, let's wrap it up though.
Yeah, but so those two things I think that are very, very meaningful because the impact is internal and the influence is external. And so I
Okay.
would say the impact of the Black church in the present, I'm not so sure. I feel like there are some Black churches that are changing the world. I think that there's so many good Black churches out there. And if you are at a Black church where you're dissatisfied, just look next door. There's probably a Black church that's gonna
Yeah. True.
there's gotta be one that'll do right by you. Okay. I think that there are many Black churches that are still kind of holding on to that original Black church tradition, the tradition of conjuring something out of nothing. Okay.
Right.
So I still think that there's so many of those, and many of them here in North Carolina. I think that there's many of them out there. You don't have to be worried about that. There's many people who are still serving God in 2025. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the influence, I feel like we have lost our influence a little bit. I think that over time, the Black church has gotten so involved in politics that it has lost the flavor of the Black church. So the critical engagement piece is lost. I mean, we still have churches that still don't let women on the pulpit in 2025. We still have churches where our pastors are the biggest sex offenders. We still have some of those things going on within our churches and people not willing to speak those out. We still have churches that are exclusionary, right?
Mhm.
Not allowing people to be themselves within the church walls, right? And so we have to continue moving with the times. I think we talked about evolution in this podcast. I think that that's something that we need to hold on to, right? We need to hold on to the fact that as the world is changing, if we don't change, we'll get left behind. If you stop growing, what do you start doing? You start rotting. And if you
Mhm.
start rotting, it means you're dying, right?
Right.
So if grow, keep green, keep green. I think that that's the only way for churches to retain their influence is to continue doing the work that God has called them to do,
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
apology, and without currying favor to certain voices of power that might make
Yeah.
them lose flavor. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Dr. Sheila back on here. Me and Dr. Sheila back on. Um,
Sure thing.
I'm
Why
gonna,
not?
and I'm not having any off as I've been doing as of late. No off-camera closing remarks. These are the final remarks, and we're
Yeah.
gonna definitely dive into it. I will make sure I promote this next episode.
Yeah.
Really promote it heavily. We're going to simply
Yeah.
talk about the influence of the Black church on modern day society, and then
Yes.
we'll branch off to all these other places like we did today.
Like
But
we
we're
did.
going to today that we did today.
Yeah.
So, my dear listeners, if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast at, in the audio format, particularly. I know my West Coast folks, y'all are hitting me up really hard. And so, when you stuck in traffic in LA, which I have yet to visit, uh, become a subscriber, not just a listener, or Apple, Google, wherever you're catching it at. Uh, but this is something that's dear to your heart.
Yeah.
What's happening within your own black church, your own community. Share this episode. Let's reach as many people as possible because we don't have to stay where we're uncomfortable, but we do have to go where we're not invited. Y'all
Come
have a
on.
great night. I'm going to take you off the camera for a second, Dr. Sheila. Let
No
the
problem.
exit intro go, and then I'm going to say good night to you off camera and
Okay.
all that
No.
good stuff. And our final words as we prep for the next show at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Uh, take you off now. And